Everybody, my name is Albert Chavez here. I'm a 52-year-old father of three and grandfather, and so excited to be here and introduce ourselves.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is exciting. We came together last year, actually, middle of June, Father's Day weekend, and we were in San Diego just chit-chatting about life. And I had been watching your journey for a while now. You've gone to the desert about 4 years ago on a rites of passage journey. And through that process and that group called the Rising Man Community, we both ended up joining it, but I just saw like your transformation that you were working on because you're dedicated to redefining who you were. And so it was just really important to me to eventually go on a similar mission to figure out what what am who is Albert Chavez IV? What does that look like down the line and how we can both come together. So when we were just talking together, we were sitting in the hot tub, just chit-chatting about life and wanted to create something for our family to just have a backbone and a structure so that me and you could share this not only with each other and continue building our relationship and also see what it would do for our family.
Yeah, I love it. So, the backstory is, obviously Albert's my son. He's Albert the fourth, and 2019, I hit a monumental low, like probably the worst time of my life, and when I decided to change and shift and completely reconstruct. My kids got to be the one witnessing from the back end. And backstory, Albert didn't talk to me for a while, right? There was a lot of distrust and with my kids, with me myself, and so unbeknownst to us, over the last 3 years, we've been developing this ability to communicate, this connection. The desert journey, like you talked about, really, really, I think, solidified because I saw him as a man. He saw me as not just a father, but a man who went through things. And when we came together, what we really wanted to do, what we saw is we saw how much of an impact it made with our circle of family. I have two other daughters, one's 29, one's 22, and then Albert's 25. And we just saw the impact, and even with his mom, and she's married as well. We saw the impact of us coming together because these changes we were making as men. And that's the big thing, is that we had to really look within ourselves. And I have something called the mirror versus the window. We stopped looking at things through the window, which is blame, complain, project, and what's happened to us in life. And we started putting the mirror on ourselves, which is what's my responsibility as a man? Yeah, that happened to me. It wasn't my fault, but it's my responsibility to fix all these cracks that I have, or address these. Maybe it's vices, or maybe it's weaknesses, or maybe it's just how do I need to show up for my family. And so the byproduct is really Albert and I really connecting on a weekly basis. And so we thought, hey, let's come together. Let's talk about relationships. Let's talk about divorce, which I divorced almost 11 years ago. Let's talk about vices. Let's talk about hardship. Let's talk about death. Let's talk about like struggles. Let's talk about um, just what it is to be a man. Like what are some things that we have in common? And then we then started looking at, okay, so maybe we can branch it out to not just men, but what if it's fathers, single fathers, or married fathers with daughters, or maybe mothers with sons, or maybe mothers with daughters. And so the idea really in this project, and we named it the Legacy Project, is to coming together on a weekly basis and talking about topics and how other individuals have worked through them or are still working through them. This isn't a kumbaya station. This is a real station about two men coming together, having people on, talking about their struggles, talking about their wins, talking about what they did to have to shift and to pivot to become the better versions of themselves, and or what hardships they got through, so that we can share that with you. Because too many in this world right now, there's so many people focusing on the strengths or what's great in life, but what's killing them is the weaknesses or the vices or the darkness, or the internal struggles that we're not talking about. So we're just putting ourselves out there, and it's an interesting dynamic because we're 25 years apart, give or take, and three different generations. And so I get to speak from my point of view as a parent, as a man, as a someone who had trauma, and he also gets to talk about from his point of view, where he's in his mid 20s and figuring life out. And so we get to basically exchange note cards and how we can be better for you.
And that last part is really crucial and powerful, I think, to me, especially as a 25-year-old, is that difference, that time gap that we do have is really powerful. And the fact that we are able to communicate, because right now, what we found is really prominent and helpful for us is just laying everything out on the table.
Yeah,
Because you're not going to understand what I'm going through, given your background, given the generational like differences, right? And then I'm kind of seeing what's moving on with my generation here too. So there's just a lot of ebbs and flows that happen because there is a difference in age, and that's allowed for us to both just come to the table and say, "Hey, here's what I'm saying, here's what I'm saying," and then we can kind of mix those together and just see what's really going on and what we're seeing, and then make it more relatable and digestible to you. Because like you said, we're gonna continue bringing on people that want to share their stories, and it's all connected.
yeah, yeah,
I believe it's all connected, and so we get to see what's really going on in people's lives,
yeah,
and how do we break down some of those walls and just talk and chat,
yeah,
because everyone's craving for this connection.
yeah,
There's a lot of awareness out there, I've noticed, and I think what me and you and what we're trying to create here and continuing creating is going past just the awareness portion. Let's address some of that stuff that's on your mind. Let's address that thing that's stopping you, that's even maybe even pushing you to motivate you. And so
exactly.
there's the yin and yang of the strengths and weaknesses is what we try to continue bringing here at the Legacy Project. And it's allowed for me to just be more open with other people my age, be with significant others, be with even like our family
Yeah.
members to share some of this stuff. And so yeah, it's been really powerful for us both just to continue our connection.
Yeah, just to kind of go a little bit rabbit hole, and we could change topics here. To know and not to do is not to know. And so what you're saying is correct. There's a lot of people that are aware. But if you're aware of how much of an asshole you are, if you're aware of how much you're not showing up for your family, if you're aware as a young man, knowing that you're not giving it your all, or you're entitled, or you have a certain mindset that's holding you back, and you're not doing anything about it, that's your fault. And so I think that's really important to talk about is it's to know and not to do is not to know. You could have all the knowledge in the world and be an encyclopedia, but until you act and until you put the steps forward, the necessarily daily steps to act on the things that you need to do to change, shift, pivot, or whatever to change your circumstances, then you're just talking. And I
Mhm.
think that's really important as we brought people on here is these individuals have really, really stepped up. I mean, we've talked a little bit about who we've had on. Like we've had a woman who lost her husband, through a husband and son through a suicide,
Mhm.
3 years apart. We had another friend of mine who is a divorced dad, and we talked about being a single dad with the girls
Mhm.
and the struggles with that. We had a gentleman last week, Jason, who talked about fatherhood and also being a single dad as well, and but also the struggles that he faced as a youth growing up with his sisters in an all women's household, and some of the conflicting views that they had to where he had to figure out, okay, I'm being raised by women, but how am I going to become a better man?
Mhm.
So, because women can't teach women men how to be men, they can teach them how to be women. That's the thing about it. So these topics, and then Albert and I, we will go into just different topics. We had a topic about what would you say to your father if you could ask a question, like what pressing question would, if you could ask your father, what would you ask him? And we role played. And the idea really is to really be these painful, hard truths that sometimes we're avoiding. What I've recognized for myself is the more the more honest I can be with something that's bothering me or frustrating me or fearful inside of me, the more that I can address it, then the deeper level of intimacy I can have with myself. But then if I'm sharing it, or if my son has something he wants to ask me, they may be a little terrifying or unsure, but we can just get through it as men and talk in a way where we're listening to each other, we're gauging each other, we're respecting each other's point of views without judgment, and then we'll figure out that that pain that was there, it can be sifted through, and it doesn't necessarily go away, but it allows us to go a deeper level of trust, because now the words that we're saying aren't being weaponized with each other. they're actually being heard, they're actually being sought, and they're actually being kind of, I would say, holding compassion to what's being said. That level of intimacy, I know, has helped myself be a better person, worker, coach. And I know Albert has mentioned it's helped him, but it's helped all around because we're doing this father-son dialogue.
So if there's one thing that we would like to continue to do, what would you like to see?
Um, I would say continuing down the road of truth. Like, I know, I know there's still some questions that you may be, and again, I'm assuming, but I know because I was a divorced kid, is there's some questions you still have about maybe some memories you have, maybe some things that you thought maybe you saw or heard, and maybe just need clarity on. I can tell you because I still have questions of when my mom and dad got divorced, and that was 46 years ago.
Mhm.
So, and even with the divorce, when he got the second divorce, I still have questions. So there are things I think that those harder, not necessarily just to get them off your chest, but maybe there's just something that you could unlock that would allow you to get even more intimate or even more connected. Because I think there's always another levels.
Yeah. You say new levels bring new devils, and there's
Yes,
something
sir.
else that's going to be something else to unfold, right? You
Yeah,
see the similar patterns, and that's what we talk about all the time
yeah.
is the similar patterns that we notice, and there's just one more level deeper that you can go. And it's,
Mhm.
I think, what's really impacted me throughout this process and what I want to continue to see with us is building. What I want to see continue is building an audience that is inspired to be and want to not just be aware, but take it more as like implementing it their lives, you know? Everyone likes, a lot of people like to journal, a lot of people like to meditate, a lot of people like to do these things that are isolated events. But what happens when we do it in a more dynamic
Yeah,
situation?
yeah.
So I think that's something that we can bring to the table and continue by making it our awareness of it and showing that case. And
So
it's our,
I have another attitude that now you went down that rabbit hole. I actually would love to see us build a community together,
yeah, I think so. I think it'd be really powerful.
like build a Facebook community or a community about the Legacy Project, men and women, and do a weekly call, like a check-in, or maybe even doing, maybe there's a struggle that someone's having with, and we could be that sounding board for them. Because I think this is the question that I get a lot. I think you said it too. Is like, so how are you able to talk to your son about that,
Hmm.
right? And also it's like, so isn't too much too much? They'll say that to me, or they'll actually say, wow, like you're talking to your son about that. And the reason why they're saying it is because we were there too, you
Hmm.
know. And again, truth be known, like I don't have a relationship with my father, as you know, I'm just stating it on here. And there was some dialogue that we could potentially have, but one side it doesn't want it, and the other side would be willing to. Both both have to come together and want to really resolve conflict as opposed to avoid it. And I think that's the biggest thing is that building a community that allows people to come on and ask the difficult question, like, so how were you able to talk to your son about that?
Hmm.
And what like what what is allowing you? And I think my answer would be, are you ready for the question?
Right.
Because if you're not ready for the question, that hard question you're going to get, and you're not good with yourself, and you're not right with yourself, you're going to be very, very defensive. And that's because you haven't dealt with your accountability to that relationship, to whatever the question is.
Yeah, and I think even just letting go of what's happening too is like we get so attached to who we are
Yeah.
with that, and it makes it really difficult to let go. And I was actually listening to a podcast last night, which is funny. Talking about love, talking about why we are afraid of it, and he was like talking about the unique differences of love and like how impactful, how crazy it is to fall in love with something and someone, but how beautiful it was, like that yin and yang of everything, the opposites of like
Yeah.
When you get into a breakup, you're like, man, I don't want to fall in love ever again. I am so heartbroken,
Right,
you're
right, right.
distraught. But then once you find that next person, you remember it, but you're like, oh, this is what the beauty really is. And so I think touching on that is really powerful because once you let go of who you are and who you used to be and recognize that it was there, it was really good, but you're trying to become this new person.
Yeah,
And so you're gonna go through this hard time where you just like feel like, oh, I'm not sure, I'm uneasy. And then when you want to actually move forward through it, you'll be able to step into that next role. And that's with conversations, that's with when you hear a triggering thought about yourself, and then you get into that fight or fight mode. It's all connected with not just being attached to who you are because you want to save yourself for that temporary moment rather than just listening to the question. And if you can't answer it, that's okay. But if you won't answer it for a reason that is because you're just trying to push it away, you know, within reason, there's only so much time that you can do that, or else you're just going to continue not being your authentic self.
yeah.
So, yeah, I
Beautiful.
think for me, I think we just continue sharing who we are and what we
Yeah,
want to build. We want to continue having people on, sharing their story, being willing to be vulnerable and take that first step because odds are they're probably one of the first people to do it in their family. And if they're continuing doing that, just think of the ripple effects that we're
yeah,
here. Just think of the impact that it'll have on your family. It's already made me and you a lot closer. It's already
yeah,
made the people around us want to join in on something like
yeah.
this. So let's
I love
continue
it.
to build the legacy project.
Yes, sir. And you know what comes to mind to me is I love what you said in the beginning about being the collective. Here's what I know. Some people are in this mindset of, well, I don't need that, or I only drink a little bit, or I only have a little bit of anger. All these I. I'll take alcohol for one example. As an individual, not you particularly, but every listening may say, I don't have a problem with alcohol. I'm fine with alcohol. You're being selfish. Collectively, in the world where I stand, I've been sober for two years and 2 months. Collectively, alcohol has ruined families. The collective energy is that it's not good for you. So what I've learned is collectively, if it's not going to raise your vibration as a human being, it's going to lower it. That's what you have to get rid of. It's
Mm.
Yeah, you individually may be able to handle it, but you are just one piece of the millions and millions of collective. So if there's 10 of you like that and you're bringing the vibration down because of your behavior, that's not good for the collective. I think we're all intertwined. I think that's why I've attracted people in my life recently. I've repelled people in my life. They've left me, is because of the frequency that I'm vibing with. So collectively, what we're doing here is we got two men who said, ego aside, forget about that we're really father and son. That's a big part of it, but we're not going in with those roles. We're not coming in like I know it all and you're submitting, right? Or I'm not coming in like, well, I'm a coach and you're my son and we're playing and I'm putting you in when you want, right? No,
Mhm.
we're coming and say we're two men who happen to be little boys inside, who happen when we become a man, we have these same characteristics and traits that we grow up with and we have innately as men, and we also share like-minded struggles, and we're saying, okay, if you're struggling with this and this, and I'm struggling with this and this, and you were able to eliminate two of the three, and you're struggling just to not to spend another day on earth, then let me figure out what you did to get rid of these two
Mm.
so that I can learn how to have more control. And it's sharing this information, it's sharing the collective collaboration. And so we don't know who this is going to impact. We don't know how it's going to impact. And I was asked the question this past week. So, Albert, what do you want to get out of this podcast? Where do you want it to go? And I said it to you. My honest answer is, I don't really care.
Mhm.
Here's what's happened. I get to talk to my son 2 to 3 times a week. I get to communicate with him 3 to 4 to 5 times a week on men stuff and connection.
Mhm.
Whether this blows up or does whatever, and we want this to help you. But for me, I get to build something with my son that I never had as a son or as a father. And we get to do this, and it's making us even more strong.
Mhm.
That to me, there is no other, it's priceless to me. Because if we hadn't done this, we would have less opportunity or we would make less effort to talk. And this is allowing us to really work together and come together and really learn how to cooperate with each other, but also, in my opinion, gain a huge amount of respect of the direction we're going, and that we both know that whatever happens to you or me down the road, that we have come to this consensus, like this is what we want to provide to our family and people.
Mhm. And when we get to come together every week, I get to learn more about you.
Mm.
I get to learn about myself through you because I say all the time how much we're very similar.
Yeah. you
So,
are you are a spin image. Uh,
and man, it's just funny. I laugh at myself at some of it because it's just weird. Like the apple does not fall from the tree with the way we interact with each other, the way we interact with peers, spouses, all that stuff, you know? And it's just really cool just to do this. I know no one else is doing something like this, and it's just fun. It's just fun to just
yeah,
go down the ringer and we prep maybe like just throughout the week, a couple hours maybe, and it's
yeah,
just fun just to just do this with you. And I would never have pictured this 11 years ago, you know?
never. Yeah,
So it's I just want to continue just having fun with it,
yeah,
seeing where it goes, but also being intentional with how much we are making an impact in this
yeah,
world. So
yeah.
yeah, we are live, everyone. We go on Instagram Live Tuesdays at 6:30 PST. We're going to continue sharing this on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts just so you guys can actually retain it after the fact. But if you want to directly talk to us, we're here every Tuesday at 6:30 PST. Please bring your questions and we want to make sure to help you out. And anything that's just you have a curiousness about, be spontaneous and come learn about yourself a little bit more and how you can impact your family, your loved ones, and just learn a little bit more about yourself.
Love it, man. Love you, man. I appreciate it. And everybody out listening, I'll leave you with this. Like, everything's redeemable.
Mhm.
Everything's redeemable. You have to put the work with yourself. You have to be able to be honest with your faults and how you're showing up. And then you also have to be willing to let people go who don't want to be in your life, who you've hurt. You have to be willing to accept the consequences of your actions, good, bad, or the ugly. And you have to work on your passion so greatly that it doesn't matter how much time, how much effort, you do it with a lot of fun, but you have zero expectations of a result that you want. See, the result, what's happening with my son and I, with Albert and I, we didn't expect this. We knew something, but we didn't expect this. And I think that's what's been helpful is we don't have an expectation of where this is going or who this is going to impact, but we do have a responsibility to just share from the heart and allow our experiences to be shared to you so that it may impact you or may just maybe just give a little chink in the armor, like to make you think and take a double take, like, I wonder what they did that allowed them to be able to communicate. Like, I wonder what their process was. And that you're seeing the byproduct of us communicating had to do with a lot of tears, a lot of conflict, a lot of jeers, a lot of frustration, a lot of surrender, a lot of forgiveness, and most importantly, a lot of respect for each other. And that only came because two men really wanted this relationship to work. We just needed to figure out a way to not just be on the same frequency, but just talk the same language so that we could understand each other.
Mhm.
And that was the biggest breakthrough was coming together in February of 2022. or 21, whatever it was, and a few years ago, and just sitting down and breaking bread and having a conversation that led to a 2 to 3 hour conversation about both grievances we had and what we were holding back on and what was frustrating about our relationship and what we really wanted the outcome to be.
Hmm.
And had that not conversation gone through, who knows what would happen? But that was a very organic, spontaneous conversation that happened because two people were hurting really bad. And we felt vulnerable enough as men to just lay it out on the table.
Yeah, that was so I literally took me back to it right now.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
when we were just, just kicking rocks on the beach, and then fast forward a couple hours later, we were at a bar, just or at a restaurant, just breaking down,
It
sharing what was really going on, and man, that was life changing. It was
was.
we didn't really know what we were doing. We were just sharing. We
Yeah,
learned a little bit about each other, a little bit more. Um, and yeah, it just really made me feel like I could just be open with you and
yeah.
connect. So
Same.
yeah, I'm very thankful for you. Thankful for that we're able to move past that and just learn and yeah, just be who we want to be.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
So
here, guys, like Albert said, we're here every Tuesdays. We have some episodes we're going to be uploading. So you're gonna be seeing some sequences coming through. We want to do this initial inaugural one so you can kind of hear us and see what we're all about. We didn't start recording until episode 6. So we're gonna start with episode 6, and they'll be uploaded. And yeah, and I think we're up to episode 21 right now. So there's some episodes in there. So kind of bear with us. If you ever want to reach out, I'll give you my phone number. It's 916-230-1537. My email is albertchavezfit@gmail, or you can get me on Instagram at Albert Chavez Fit. And yeah, we're open book, and we're just here to really be supportive about how we can. And again, our vision is to create a community of other individuals who are like-minded, who want to really build a legacy for their family and really change the trajectory of their family by doing the inner work, having the hard conversations, surrendering, and really being accountable for who they are.
mhm.